So this video is about what can cause a demand curve to shift and what that shift looks like. So when demand changes, the demand curve will shift and it's going to shift to either the left or to the right, depending on whether it's increasing or decreasing. So when demand goes up or increases, the curve will shift to the right. When demand goes down, the curve will shift to the left. So go ahead and copy this example down into your notebook. So in this graph, the demand curve is in the middle, the one labeled D1. D1 is our starting point. On this curve, what is the quantity demanded at a price of $1? Remember, you're looking at D1. At D1, what is the quantity demanded at a price of $1? And we're looking at orange juice. So at D1, our starting point, the quantity demanded at a price of $1 is 400 quarts of orange juice. Suppose the demand for orange juice increases to 600 quarts. People still want to pay $1 per quart, but now they want to buy more at that price. What happened to the demand curve? The demand curve will shift to the right and it becomes D2. When demand goes up or increases, the demand curve will always shift to the right. Now, suppose that the demand for orange juice decreases to 200 quarts. What will happen to the demand curve? Which direction will it shift? The demand curve will shift to the left and become D3. When demand goes down or decreases, the demand curve shifts to the left. So, what are the factors that can cause demand curves to shift? For this video, we're going to focus on 5 primary factors. So, the first factor is income. As a person's income changes, they may buy more or less of a certain good. Since people will buy more or less of certain goods, there are different types of goods. There are normal goods, inferior goods, and neutral goods. I do want you to write down the definitions for each. A normal good is if a person's income and demand change in the same direction. So, an example would be if Robert is making twice as much, he will buy more CDs. So, basically, he'll just buy more of the things he already has or wants. An inferior good if income and demand go in opposite directions. So, if you're making more money, higher income, your demand for inferior goods will go down. If your income decreases, your demand for inferior goods would go up. An example would be now that Robert doesn't have to eat spam anymore, he can afford steak. That makes spam an inferior good to steak. A neutral good if demand does not change even though income does. So, examples of neutral goods where the demand's not going to change would be things like toilet paper, toothpaste, and deodorant. The second factor is preferences, consumer preferences. Changes in preferences cause changes in demand. So, an example would be if gas prices are rising, getting higher and higher, then fewer SUVs will be purchased, while more hybrids are going to be sold every day since they use less gas. The third factor, price of related goods. We've gone over the price of related goods before, but let's go ahead and get the formal definitions down since we haven't done that yet, and then you'll be able to have this for your next test. So, when two goods are substitutes, that means they're a similar good, and the demand for one moves in the direction as the price of the other. So, an example would be if the price of Coke goes up, you will probably buy Pepsi instead. Another example would be if the price of coffee increases, you may substitute a lower priced tea. When two goods are complements, that means they're goods that are used together. The demand for one will move in the opposite direction of the price of the other. So, tennis balls and tennis rackets are complements. If the price of tennis rackets increase, then fewer people will buy the rackets, and this will cause the demand for the tennis balls to drop. Number of buyers is our fourth factor. An increase or decrease in the number of buyers can change demand. The more buyers, the higher the demand. An example would be if there's a high birth rate, you might also have increased immigration. Fewer buyers lowers the demand. If there's a natural disaster, that would increase the death rate. So then there'd be a lesser demand to move there. The fifth factor, future price. Consumer or buyers' expectations of future prices can cause them to buy now or to wait to buy. Waiting to buy a house because you think prices are going to continue to go down would be an example. And that is the end of our video on causes to demand curve shifts.